It always amazed me how quickly New York could shift from chaos to calm. One moment, you're dodging cab horns and coffee carts, the next, you're walking into a warm apartment that feels like its own little universe. Mine was on the 15th floor of a building that overlooked Central Park. A place I'd bought with years of late nights, freelance clients, and more than a few sacrifices. Jake always told me it was our place. Even though the deed was in my name, he said it with such conviction that sometimes I almost believed him. "Babe, this view is insane," he'd say, sliding open the balcony door as if he hadn't said the same thing 100 times before. "You know, people would kill for this." I'd laugh, curling into the couch with a glass of wine. "Yeah, well, I nearly killed myself working for it." Jake would grin, that movie star smile that had hooked me 2 years ago. He was charming, I'll give him that. Slick in a way that made waitresses linger at our table a little too long, but never outright disrespectful. At least, not then. My best friend, Monica Ruiz, had raised an eyebrow the first time she met him. He's handsome, sure. But something about him feels performative. I'd brushed it off, the way women do when they want their friend to like the man they've already fallen for. "You're just being protective." Maybe she was. Monica had seen me climb from near-broke grad student to marketing consultant with clients who actually listened to me. She'd seen me claw my way into a lifestyle where I could finally breathe. So maybe she was skeptical of a guy who didn't seem to work half as hard but always managed to have designer shoes. Still, Jake made me feel cared for, in the little ways. He'd bring me coffee in bed, rub my shoulders when I complained about deadlines, tell me I was too smart for my own good. It was easy to fall into the idea that this was it, the happy ending people like me weren't supposed to get. And yet, little cracks showed. Like the time I came home exhausted from a client pitch, and Jake barely looked up from his phone. "Did they sign?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Not yet," I admitted, dropping my bag. He frowned. "Well, hurry up. We've got bills, you know." We. That word again. I wanted to tell myself it was just stress, just him being practical. But Monica's voice kept echoing in the back of my head, performative. That night, when I slid into bed beside him, Jake pulled me close and whispered, "Don't ever forget, Charlotte. You're my ticket out of the grind." I chuckled, thinking he was joking. But as I drifted off, a chill settled in my stomach I couldn't quite shake. It started small, a sentence here, a glance there, but the cracks were widening. One Tuesday night, I came home late from a client dinner, my blazer still smelling faintly of red wine and roasted garlic. Jake was sprawled on the couch, PlayStation controller in hand, the glow of the TV reflecting in his eyes. "You're late," he said without looking up. I set my bag down by the door. Yeah, the meeting ran long. We were finalizing numbers for the ad spend. Jake hit pause, finally glancing over. "So, did they sign?" I hesitated. "Not yet. We're close, though." He leaned back, exhaling like I'd just told him the rent check bounced. "Close doesn't pay the bills, Charlotte." That word again. Bills. He never used to say it like that, like my work was supposed to guarantee his comfort. I bit my tongue, but the irritation simmered. "I do pay the bills. All of them." He gave me a smile that wasn't really a smile. "Yeah. And I'm just saying, it'd be nice if you closed faster. You're the big shot, right?" That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, Monica's warning echoing louder than ever, something about him feels performative. The following weekend, Monica and I grabbed coffee near Union Square. She stirred her latte with exaggerated patience. "So? How's Prince Charming?" I sighed. "Still charming. Still. Jake." She arched an eyebrow. "Translation?" I lowered my voice. He asked me to put his name on the deed. Her spoon clattered against the cup. Excuse me? He said since we're basically married, it would make sense. Monica sat back, folding her arms. Charlotte, no. Don't you dare. I didn't agree, I said quickly. I just nodded and changed the subject. She shook her head. You've worked your ass off for that apartment. He waltzes in with what? A couple pairs of Ferragamo loafers and a smile? Absolutely not. I wanted to defend him. To say he loved me, that he wasn't like that. But the truth lodged in my throat like a stone. A week later, the truth came crashing down anyway. I came home earlier than Jake expected. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard his voice through the cracked open bedroom door. Bro, I'm telling you, he was saying, laughing softly, she's loaded. Salary, savings, the apartment. Once we're married, I'll never have to work a day again. She'll cover everything. My stomach dropped. There was silence on the other end of the call, then Jake's voice again, cocky, smug. What? Don't hate the player, man. Hate the game. I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears. The apartment felt colder, like the walls themselves recoiled from his words. I backed away slowly, careful not to make a sound. I locked myself in the bathroom, pressing my hands against the sink to steady the tremble in my fingers. The mirror didn't lie, my face was pale, my lips pressed thin. That was the moment I knew. Jake Miller wasn't my partner. He was a parasite. And parasites don't stop feeding until you cut them off. The next week, Jake decided to surprise me. Not with flowers. Not with dinner. With a ring. He came home late on a Friday, his cologne clinging to him like he'd walked through a department store aisle. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket, nursing chamomile tea after another 12-hour workday. Charlotte, he said, standing in the doorway with a grin that looked practiced. I've been thinking. Oh, that's new, I teased, trying to sound light. But the pit in my stomach wouldn't budge. He laughed a little too loudly and dropped onto one knee. A small velvet box appeared in his hand. The diamond inside was tiny, cloudy even, but his smile suggested he thought he was dazzling me. Marry me, he said. No speech. No heart. Just 2 words like a transaction. I blinked, forcing my lips into a curve. Jake. Come on, babe, he said quickly. We're already living like we're married. Let's just make it official. I glanced at the ring again. Something about it felt off. This is sudden. He shrugged. Life's short. Why wait? There was no warmth in his eyes, only calculation. And in that moment, Monica's warnings and his phone call replayed in my head like a bad movie. Still, I nodded, slipping the ring onto my finger with a hand that didn't stop shaking. Yes. Jake hooped, pulling me into his arms. But his next words gave him away. Now we can really combine everything. Joint accounts, your apartment in both our names. No more of this separate stuff. Separate stuff. As if my years of work, my savings, my home, were just temporary placeholders until he claimed his share. I smiled tightly. Of course. But inside, something in me hardened. That night, while Jake snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My pulse beat so loudly it felt like it would echo through the walls. My mind spun, not with grief, not with heartbreak, but with a razor-sharp focus I hadn't felt in years. By morning, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to walk away quietly. I wasn't going to let him bleed me dry. If Jake Miller thought he could con me, he hadn't seen anything yet. The plan began with a seed, Monica's idea, whispered over brunch months ago when she first suspected him. Fake bankruptcy, she'd said, stirring her mimosa like it was just another casual Sunday. See how fast he runs when there's no money left. At the time, I'd laughed it off. But now? Now it felt like justice. I drafted a story in my head, business failure, debts piling up, every penny gone. I'd sprinkle in stress, fake paperwork, even a lawyer's appointment. I could act desperate, defeated. And Jake would show me exactly who he was. By Monday, I was already planting the first seeds. I came home with my hair disheveled, papers spilling from my bag. I let out a long sigh loud enough for him to hear. Tough day? Jake asked, glancing up from his phone. The worst, I said, dropping into a chair. That client I told you about? They pulled out. It's bad, Jake. Really bad. He frowned, but not with concern. His eyes darted like a man calculating numbers. How bad? I let my voice wobble. Bad enough that I might need a bankruptcy lawyer. Silence stretched between us. And in that silence, I had my answer. Jake's face shifted, not into sympathy, but into fear for himself. Babe, he said finally, voice flat. What does that mean for us? I smiled inside, though my face stayed solemn. It meant the game had finally begun. If betrayal feels like fire at first, planning revenge feels like ice, cold, deliberate, and strangely steadying. The Monday after Jake's proposal, I left for work earlier than usual. Not because I had meetings, but because I needed space to think. My heels clicked down the lobby marble like a metronome, steadying my pulse. By the time I reached my office, I knew one thing for sure: if Jake wanted to play games, I'd outplay him. At lunch, I met Monica at a quiet cafe in Midtown. She spotted me through the window, already raising an eyebrow before I even sat down. You look like you haven't slept, she said, pushing a latte toward me. I haven't, I admitted. My hands wrapped around the cup, not for warmth, but for grounding. He proposed. Her jaw dropped. He what? With a ring that looks like it came out of a vending machine, I muttered. And then he immediately talked about joint accounts, putting his name on the apartment. You know. The works. Monica leaned forward, eyes narrowing. So, you finally believe me? I exhaled. I overheard him on the phone. He bragged to his buddy that once we're married, he'll never work again because I'll cover everything. Charlotte, her voice softened. I'm so sorry. I shook my head. Don't be. You were right. And now, I'm going to prove it. She blinked. You're serious about the bankruptcy plan? Serious enough to make it real. Monica smirked, half in disbelief, half in admiration. Girl, this is going to be savage. That night, I started planting seeds. First, I left fake bank statements lying on the kitchen counter, red numbers, overdraft notices, the kind of paperwork that would make anyone's stomach twist. Second, I rehearsed my performance. I'd sigh louder, stare at bills longer, leave spreadsheets open on my laptop with tabs labeled debt restructuring and lawyer consultation. Third, I let a little desperation leak into my voice whenever Jake asked how work was going. The first time, he looked up sharply. You're kidding, right? I let my shoulders slump. I wish. It's bad, Jake. Like, maybe I'll lose everything bad. His lips pressed into a thin line. Well, what does that mean for us? The S again. Always the S, never the me. I gave a hollow laugh. I don't know yet. That weekend, Monica came over to help me set up cameras. We tucked one behind the bookshelf in the living room, another near the kitchen island, and one in the bedroom. Feels like we're filming a reality show, Monica whispered as she adjusted the angle. Oh, it'll be reality, all right, I said. His reality. By the end of the week, the footage started building. Tiny things, but telling: Jake rifling through my papers when he thought I wasn't home, Jake calculating bills under his breath, Jake checking his reflection more often than checking on me. But the real test came soon. On Sunday night, I sat at the dining table with a manila folder in hand. I made sure Jake saw me press my palms into my forehead like the weight of the world was on me. "What's that?" he asked. "Appointment with a bankruptcy lawyer," I whispered, letting my voice tremble. Jake's face didn't fall with empathy. It darkened with panic. "You're telling me we're broke?" I met his gaze, my best performance yet. "I don't know how much longer I can hold on." He didn't hug me. Didn't reassure me. He just sat there, silent, jaw clenched, as though he were the victim. And in that silence, I felt it again, that icy steadiness. Because he was taking the bait. The thing about lies is they rot fast. And Jake's mask was already starting to peel. It was a Thursday night when I decided to push harder. The cameras were set. Monica was on standby with backup copies of the footage. I just needed Jake to show the world who he really was. I came home with an envelope in my hand, filled with fake legal documents I'd printed earlier that day. I dropped it on the table with a thud. Jake looked up from the couch, remote dangling from his fingers. "What's that?" "Bankruptcy paperwork," I whispered, letting my voice wobble. "It's official now." For a second, I thought he might comfort me. Instead, he laughed, sharp, bitter. "You've got to be kidding me," he snapped. "So what good are you now?" My throat tightened, but not from sadness, from victory. Because the camera in the corner caught every syllable. "Jake," I said softly, "I thought we were in this together." He stood, pacing. "Together? Don't make me laugh. I wasted 2 years thinking you'd actually give me something stable. And now? You're broke. A failure. Why would I stick around for that?" I sat still, heart pounding, face calm. "So, you're saying if I don't have money, I'm nothing to you?" "Don't twist my words," he barked, but his tone betrayed him. I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who can actually take care of me." There it was. Clear as day. He stormed into the bedroom, muttering about packing his things. I didn't follow. I just sat there, staring at the envelope, letting the silence soak in. The next morning, I uploaded the footage to a private link and sent it to Monica. She called me 5 minutes later, practically cackling. "Oh my God, Charlotte. This is gold. He looks like the villain in a bad reality show." "I know," I said quietly. "So, what's the plan? Keep it private? Or?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to bury it, keep the humiliation between us. But the other part, the part that remembered every smug grin, every greedy glance, every time he called my apartment ours, that part wanted the world to see. "Make it public," I said. And within 48 hours, it spread like wildfire. The video was raw, shaky, but authentic. People ate it up, the charming boyfriend revealed as a gold digger, his words dripping entitlement. Comments poured in, "She deserves better." "What a clown!" "Justice served." "Chef's kiss." Strangers DM'd me, some sharing their own stories of betrayal, others thanking me for exposing people like him. By the weekend, Jake's phone was blowing up. He texted nonstop, "You didn't have to do that. This is private. Take it down. Let's talk, please." I didn't mean it like that. "You know, I was just stressed. I still love you." Every excuse, every plea, every pathetic attempt to reframe his cruelty. I didn't answer a single one. Monica, of course, was living for it. She sent me screenshots of people reposting the clip with savage captions. One said, "When you realize your ATM machine filed for bankruptcy." Another had Jake's face frozen mid-rant with the text, "Broke? Guess I'm out." I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But then I remembered every time he called my apartment ours. Every time he hinted about my bank account like it was a shared wallet. Every time he smiled at me with that smug little curl of his lips, knowing I was footing the bill. And just like that, the pity dissolved. The night the video hit 50,000 views, Jake showed up at my door. He knocked 3 times, sharp and insistent. "Charlotte, open up," he called, voice strained. I didn't move. "Come on, babe, let's talk. We can fix this." You know I was under pressure. People twist words, you know how it is. I stayed silent, standing in the hallway with my arms crossed. He knocked again, harder this time. "Charlotte, please. You're ruining my life." I almost laughed out loud at that. Ruining his life. As if I hadn't just watched him casually try to ruin mine. When he finally gave up and his footsteps retreated down the hall, I whispered to myself, "That's the sound of freedom." The next day, Monica and I sat together on my couch, replaying the clip on her phone. We laughed at the comments section, cried a little at the messages from women thanking me for speaking up, and toasted with cheap wine. "This is just the beginning," Monica said, raising her glass. She was right. Because Jake thought the video was the end of my plan. But it was only the start. The video had been live for less than a week, and already it felt like it belonged to the whole city. I couldn't open Instagram without seeing Jake's furious face freeze-framed into some cruel meme. My phone buzzed constantly, strangers DMing me with sympathy, acquaintances sending popcorn emojis, Monica forwarding me clips with savage captions. But the strangest message came from Darren Walsh. "Hey. Wild question. Is that your Jake trending online right now?" I almost dropped my phone. Darren wasn't the type to gossip, he was steady, quiet, the kind of guy who noticed everything but never said too much. "Yeah," I texted back, long story. "But, yeah." A pause. Then, "For what it's worth, you deserve way better." It was simple, but it steadied me more than I wanted to admit. Meanwhile, Jake was spiraling. I heard through Monica that someone at his office had seen the video and shared it in the group chat. By the next morning, the whole floor was whispering. One of Monica's coworkers even texted her a screenshot of their Slack, Jake's face next to a gif of someone digging with a shovel, captioned, "Found the gold, boys." I almost felt bad for him. Almost. That night, he showed up at my apartment again, pounding on the door until my neighbor shouted at him to shut up. I stayed on the couch, sipping wine, letting the knocks fade into silence. "Please," his voice cracked, "you've ruined everything. My boss saw it. They're talking about suspension. I could lose my job." The irony was delicious. He'd wanted to live off me so he wouldn't have to work. And now he was furious at the thought of losing the one job he barely cared about. The next morning, Darren caught me in the lobby of my office building. "Rough week?" he asked gently. I forced a smile. "You could say that." He hesitated, then added, "If you ever need someone to talk to, without cameras, memes, or Monica live tweeting, let me know." I laughed, the first real laugh in days. I'll keep that in mind. For the first time since this whole thing began, I realized I wasn't just surviving Jake's betrayal. I was starting to live again. And Jake? He was burning in the very fire he lit. Monica was the one who insisted on the watch party. Charlotte, you can't just let this be an online thing, she said, waving a bottle of rose like it was a microphone. We need a proper audience. Real-time reactions. Laughter. Clapping. The works. So that Saturday night, my apartment was full. Monica, of course, had brought snacks and a playlist that swung from Beyoncé to Dua Lipa. A couple of her girlfriends I barely knew lounged on the couch, whispering with wide eyes. Even Darren showed up, looking almost uncomfortable until I shoved a beer into his hand. I should have felt nervous. Instead, I felt powerful. When everyone settled, Monica dimmed the lights with a dramatic flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to Exhibit A, Jake Miller, Gold Digger Extraordinaire. The video played on my TV, larger than life. Jake's voice filled the room. So what good are you now? Gasps. Then laughter. On screen, he paced, ranting, digging his grave deeper with every arrogant word. Oh my God, one of Monica's friends whispered, clutching her chest. He actually said that? He did, I said evenly, sipping wine. Darren shook his head slowly. Unbelievable. He wasn't even trying to hide it. By the time the clip ended, the room erupted, groans, curses, someone shouting trash over the laughter. Monica raised her glass in a toast. To Charlotte. For proving once and for all that karma has a sense of humor. Everyone clinked glasses, the sound sharp and sweet. And that's when the knock came. 3 loud, insistent thuds against my door. I froze. Monica's eyes widened. Darren set his drink down, shoulders tense. From the hallway, Jake's voice bellowed. Charlotte! Open up! We need to talk. The room went dead silent. I glanced at Monica. She mouthed, "Don't you dare." Another round of pounding. I know you're in there. I can hear you. Someone in the back giggled nervously. Darren stepped closer to me, lowering his voice. Do you want me to tell him to leave? But before I could answer, Monica stormed toward the door. She didn't open it, she just shouted through it, Go home, Jake. No one here wants you. A pause. Then Jake's muffled, furious growl, You think this is funny? You ruined my life. Monica smirked, turning back to the group. Correction. You ruined yourself. She just caught it on camera. Laughter erupted, louder this time, and I swear I heard Jake's footsteps retreat down the hall in humiliation. The party roared back to life, everyone clapping like the villain had been booed off stage. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just my revenge anymore. It had become entertainment. Proof. A cautionary tale. Jake thought he'd control the narrative. Instead, he'd become a punchline. And I wasn't finished yet. The Monday after the watch party, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls. Jake had left 6 voicemails in a row, each one more pathetic than the last. Charlotte, listen, I was stressed, okay? People say things they don't mean. Delete. Look, the video makes me look bad, but you know me. You know I didn't mean it like that. Delete. Fine. You want an apology? I'm sorry. I love you. Just, please, take it down. I'm begging you. Delete. Each message was its own confession, proof that he wasn't sorry for what he'd done, just sorry that people finally saw it. Then came the flowers. A dozen red roses left at my door with a card, Forgive me, babe. They went straight into the trash. Then the letters, shaky handwriting on yellow legal pads, claiming he'd been misunderstood, that the video was edited out of context. One letter actually ended with, You'll regret this if you don't let me explain. I read that one twice, laughed, and fed it through my shredder. Monica, of course, was gleeful. He's spiraling, she said over FaceTime, sipping coffee like it was champagne. This is better than Netflix. Sometimes I almost feel bad, I admitted. She leaned forward so close her face filled the screen. Don't. Remember what he said? What good are you now? Her voice mimicked his, mocking, and I felt the heat in my chest again. No, I wouldn't feel bad. Not when he had taken so much of my time, my trust, my love, and twisted it into a transaction. The final straw came when Jake tried to spin the story publicly. One afternoon, a mutual acquaintance texted me a screenshot Jake had posted on Facebook, claiming the video was selectively edited and that I'd been unstable for months. He painted himself as a victim, the poor boyfriend of a woman who snapped and decided to smear his name. The comments weren't what he expected. Bro, we saw the raw video. Sit down. You said the words yourself. Take the L. This is why you don't bite the hand that feeds you. The post vanished within hours, but the damage lingered. That night, Monica called. So what's next? You've already destroyed him online. He's unemployed, undateable, and one step away from changing his name. I sipped my wine, staring at the city lights outside my window. It's not enough. Monica's eyes widened. Girl, what more do you want? Closure, I said simply. A finale. Something he'll never forget. And in that moment, the idea crystallized. I wouldn't just let Jake fade into internet obscurity. I'd make sure the last time he saw me, he understood exactly what he lost. And the whole room would hear it too. The opportunity came quicker than I expected. Monica invited me to a dinner party, nothing fancy, just a mix of coworkers, friends, and neighbors crowded into her loft. At first, I wasn't sure if I had the energy. But then I realized it was the perfect stage. The night buzzed with conversation and clinking glasses. Darren was there too, hovering near the drinks table, throwing me the kind of soft smiles that made my chest feel light. It was the first time I'd been in a room full of people since the video blew up where I felt like myself again. Until Jake walked in. The room froze. I don't know who told him where we'd be, maybe one of Monica's looser-lipped friends, maybe he just guessed, but there he was, standing in the doorway like a storm cloud. His hair was messy, his eyes bloodshot, his shirt wrinkled like he hadn't bothered with laundry in weeks. Charlotte, he said, voice cracking. Please. Just hear me out. Gasps rippled around the room. Monica jumped up, blocking his path. You were not invited. I don't care, Jake snapped, then softened his tone, his eyes locking on me. Babe, please. I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain. I stood slowly, my wineglass steady in my hand. Explain what? That I misheard you? That the video everyone saw was CGI? A ripple of laughter broke through the tension. Jake flushed red. You know that's not fair, he muttered. I was upset, I said things I didn't mean. You've made me a joke. I tilted my head. No, Jake. You made yourself a joke. I just hit record. Monica smirked, arms folded. And thank God she did. Jake's desperation spilled into anger. Do you even know what this has done to me? I lost my job, Charlotte. My parents won't even answer my calls. I can't go anywhere without people whispering. You ruined me. The room was silent, everyone watching. My pulse pounded, but I kept my voice even. No, Jake. I exposed you. There's a difference. He stepped closer, ignoring the way Darren subtly moved between us. I loved you, Jake insisted. I still love you. We can fix this. Just take the video down, and take it down? I cut him off, my voice sharp enough to slice the air. Why would I do that, when the world deserves to see exactly who you are? I pulled out my phone and, with one tap, played the raw footage on speaker. His voice filled the loft again. So what good are you now? The crowd erupted, gasps, groans, a couple of people muttering, "Wow." Darren shook his head, disgusted. Jake's face crumpled. "Charlotte, stop." But I didn't. I let the clip roll, every damning word spilling into the room until he physically staggered back like the sound alone had weight. When it ended, I looked him dead in the eye. "You thought you could make me your ATM. You thought I'd be too scared, too in love, too naive to fight back. But here's the truth, Jake," I leaned closer, voice low, lethal. "The only thing you're leaving with is nothing." The words hung in the air like smoke. Jake's lips trembled, his eyes darting to the strangers around him, all of them watching, all of them judging. And then, without another word, he turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him, and the room exhaled in unison. Monica raised her glass. Darren clapped me lightly on the shoulder. "Savage," someone whispered. And they were right. The weeks after the dinner party felt like the first deep breaths after surfacing from underwater. For the first time in years, my apartment didn't feel like a cage. No hidden tension humming in the corners, no eyes watching my bank statements, no lazy sighs from a man waiting for me to pick up the tab. Jake had gone silent. No more voicemails, no letters, no flowers. The last I'd heard, his job let him go pending review of his public behavior. Translation: he was fired. Monica said someone spotted him arguing with a barista because the cafe Wi-Fi wasn't fast enough for his job hunt. I should have felt closure already. But part of me wanted proof. Proof that his downfall wasn't just online gossip, proof he'd been stripped of the comfort he thought was his birthright. That proof came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I ducked into a coffee shop near the office, shaking the drizzle from my coat, when I heard a familiar voice. A tired, worn-out voice that once oozed confidence. "Yeah, I'll clean it up. Just give me a sec." I froze. Turned. And there he was, Jake Miller, in a faded apron, wiping down tables with the enthusiasm of a man scrubbing his own pride. His hair was longer, unkempt, his cheeks hollowed. He looked up, and the recognition hit him like a punch. "Charlotte." I raised an eyebrow, sliding my umbrella closed. "Jake." His eyes darted to the floor, then back to me, a pathetic smile twitching on his lips. "Listen, about everything." I held up a hand. "Don't." He swallowed. "I've been trying to get back on my feet. It's been hard. People still recognize me." "Oh, I'm sure they do," I said sweetly. The silence stretched, thick and humiliating. Customers at the counter glanced between us, whispering. Jake's face flushed. I reached into my wallet, pulled out a crisp $5 bill, and set it on the table he'd just cleaned. "For the service," I said lightly. His jaw clenched, but he didn't move. Didn't argue. Didn't even breathe. I gave him one last smile, the kind you give when you know you've won, and walked out into the rain, feeling lighter than I had in years. At home that night, Monica called. "So? Did you get your finale?" "Oh, I got it," I said, grinning at the memory. "And it was savage." We laughed until our stomachs hurt, replaying every moment of the past few weeks like highlights from the best revenge reel ever made. Later, as I curled up with a blanket, wine in hand, I thought about everything Jake had taken, and everything I'd taken back. My pride. My freedom. My story. He'd wanted me to be his safety net, his endless paycheck, his guarantee of comfort. Instead, he walked away with nothing. And I walked away with everything. So tell me, if someone tried to dig gold out of your heart, what would you do? Me? I went savage. And if you want more stories where justice is served with a savage twist, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.